We want to welcome everybody to the Highrise webinar. I'm Pam Vetter with Highrise, and this is Marketing 101. Marketing is important to your business, and we want to help everyone share their services in a positive way and grow their businesses. So today we welcome our marketing expert and Highrise member, Cindy McCarthy. Cindy is a marketing professional with more than 20 years of experience transforming communications to drive customer engagement. She specializes in crafting compelling brand stories that drive loyalty. Currently, she runs her own consulting firm, Chrysalis Marketing, where she works with a variety of public and private companies to develop their digital marketing, branding, customer acquisition, loyalty, investor relations, and corporate communications. Prior to running her own consulting firm, Cindy was the head of marketing for Ventus, a $36 billion healthcare real estate investment trust. Cindy cut her marketing teeth at Hilton Hotels, where she spent more than 13 years in their loyalty marketing department focused on both the domestic and international markets. She started her career in advertising at BMC, a small agency located in Santa Monica. Welcome, Cindy McCarthy.
Thank you, everybody. I'm pleased to be here. That is officially the end of the commercial for me. Now it's more about what kind of information I can share with you. And we are going to be talking about a topic that's near and dear. Sorry, I'm just moving over my little participant thing. Sorry. Near and dear to my heart, which is crafting communications that make people want to learn more. So that's really the goal of any communication, right? We want to make our customers want to learn more by engaging them and activating them. So we're going to spend a little bit of time talking about how do you craft a compelling brand story. And then Forrest also asked me to talk about search engine optimization and social media. Those are topics that he's received requests on. And so I'm going to give some practical tips. I'm going to talk for about 20 minutes total, so it's going to be relatively quick. And then we're going to open it up for questions for about another 20 minutes. And then, of course, as a Highrise member, I'm always available. You can call me anytime. I'm always happy to answer questions or to do a quick brainstorming session. So if you're not able to get your question in at the end, or I don't cover something that you're specifically interested in, or you need more detail on something, feel free to reach out to me one-on-one as well. So let's get started. So crafting your brand story. So as I said, this is a topic that's near and dear to me. I really believe in storytelling. I think that's how humans connect with one another, is storytelling. So the way I like to think about it is that everybody has a story, and stories are important. Your story is important. And so how do you make sure that you're telling that story to the people who matter most to you in the most compelling, engaging way possible? So I like to always tell my clients that your brand is your reputation, and it's formed in the minds of your customers through every interaction. And for me, the most important part of this is every interaction. You don't want to think about your marketing as individual pieces that interact with your customers. You want to think about how do you interact with your customers across the continuum. So whether it is one of your salespeople interacting with a customer, or someone coming to your website or social media, all of those interactions are an opportunity to differentiate yourself and to tell your brand story. So you want to make sure that you're telling the best story possible and that you're doing it in a way that engages your customer. So Disney and Southwest are great examples of this. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about Disney in a little bit. But if you think about how your experiences are at Disney, they script everything from how someone points. You're not allowed to use one finger, they use 3 point fingers, to the fact that they don't call their customers, they call them guests. And so I think it's really important when you're thinking about crafting that brand story, that you're thinking about how is that story going to be told by your employees, online, in your sales materials, even as little thing as your business card. I always say that business cards are a lost opportunity. I always love to put the tagline and an image on the back, because why do you need a blank card on the back or just your logo on the back, right? We need to take advantage of every opportunity through imagery and through language to tell that brand story. So what are the key elements, right, about branding and communication? Those are to be authentic. You want to be yourself. Customers can see right through you if you're not truly expressing who you are, who your company is. You want to be consistent, differentiating, and engaging. So let's dive into a few of those. So consistency is key in developing trust with your customers. If you are consistent in your communications and you're telling them the same messages, regardless of where they're interacting with you, that builds trust. And so with all of my customers, we kind of go through a discovery process. And from that discovery process, we identify 3 key messages. So these are the 3 key attributes of your company that we think are the most important and the most likely to differentiate you and engage your customers. So for example, let's say we decide one of those is personalized. You have to think about what is personalized, how is that going to differentiate you, and what does that really mean, right? So for each of the 3 that you identify for your company, you want to have proof points below them, right? So how do we personalize? Do we have a different approach for how we onboard new customers and how we assess their needs? Do we have a different approach in how we satisfy those needs? So what are those proof points? And does that truly differentiate you from your competitors? Would your competitors say that one of their key messaging points is personalization as well? So again, looking at your company as a whole and your philosophy and trying to drill it down to what are the top 3 key messages and what are those proof points, and then you build all of your communications based on those 3 key messages. So whether it's online or again your brochure or how your employees are interacting with your customers, everything should come from those 3 key messages. You would be consistently communicating those 3 things over and over again. And research has found that most people can't take in more than 3 pieces of information. So again, limiting it to 3. Sometimes I let my customers have 4, but generally we call that a messaging square instead of a messaging triangle. But generally we like to keep it to 3. And again, as I mentioned before, this is really that Disney approach, right? Or the Southwest approach, right? How do we infuse our personality, what differentiates us, into every interaction with the customer, whether that's a written interaction, online interaction, the thank you notes that you send out to customers or to referrals. Every interaction should be thoughtful and should come back to these 3 key messages. So the next key thing is differentiating, right? So how do I make myself different from my competitors? We don't want to be a commodity. I mean, commodity is like the dirty word, right? No one wants to be a commodity. So I think that differentiation is measured in activation, not deviation. So it's not so much how much you deviate from your competitors, but how that deviation activates your customers to do something. So what makes you different? But the most important question is, why should your customers care? Because if your customers don't care, it doesn't really matter that you're different. So the key thing you want to ask yourself is, what makes us different and why that solves a need for my customer? Why do they care? And then again, as I mentioned before, what are those proof points? So you'll find when I work in communications, creating communications with my customers, we'll identify a headline, right? And that headline will always have proof points behind it. So, people don't read. I would love it if they read every word I wrote, but they don't. People usually are skimmers, right? So they're gonna look at the headlines first. And so hopefully the headlines are engaging enough that it makes them want to read more. That's always our goal, right? To create communications that make customers want to learn more. But if they do want to learn more, we got to make sure the proof is there, right? So here's my headline, one of my key differentiators, and here's the proof. So if I say personalization is a differentiator, you need to make sure you have real proof points that back that up. And you can either talk about them yourselves, or a great way also is to use testimonials to be your proof points, having a customer say it for you. So engaging, basically this is the goal of all communications, right? We want to always align our goals of our business with our customers' goals. So we want to make sure that we're being customer centric. So whenever I review one of my new clients' communications, one of the first things I do is look at it, what's in it for me, right? What's in it for the customer? Oftentimes people tend to be verbose and talk a lot about themselves, especially online. These are all the awards we've won. These are all the degrees our people have. Look at us, aren't we great? And a customer might be like, that's all great, but what I really want to know is, are you going to solve this problem for me? So you want to make sure that you're writing your communication so that they are solving a customer's need, that they're answering a question that your customer actually has. It's It's also really important to be brief. A lot of times you'll find that people, you're so proud of what you do and you're so excited to share what you do with people that you just say too much. And so a lot of what I do when I do audits of people's communications is how do we get rid of all of the unnecessary words? Even little things matter because they create visual clutter. So how do we eliminate visual clutter? And then how do we make it brief so that when someone wants to learn more, right? When they read that headline and they want to learn more, that we're not taking too much of their time, that we're getting to the point, that we're being customer centric. And then the last thing I like to always say too is don't forget the call to action, right? You always got to close the deal. So you want to make sure that you're telling customers what you want them to do and making it easy, whether that's to, book a meeting with you or to buy your product or whatever that is, but to make sure we're always including that call to action. All right, so just recapping really fast because we're going to move on to social media. When it comes to messaging, I highly recommend that you take a look at what you guys are doing now and look at, is it consistent across touch points? And then try to identify, either working with a professional like myself or even doing it on your own, what are those key messages? Are they customer centric? Are they differentiating? Are they really who we are? And then making sure that you're consistently communicating those across all touch points. And really important to that is making sure that your entire staff is on the same page. That messaging triangle is your page, is your playbook, right? You want everybody to be playing from the same playbook. So, you might really understand what's different and exciting about your company, but does the receptionist understand that? And are they communicating that? Do they get it? It's really important that everybody that interacts with a customer, whether it's in a form of a communication or in person, understand what's differentiating about you. Okay, so we're going to move on to social media. So social media can be a bit scary, and I feel like everybody feels like they have to do it. And the thing that I think that most people lack is actually a strategy behind doing it. So what I always tell my clients is it's better to not do it at all than to do it badly. So if you don't feel like it's something that you guys have the bandwidth to take on, I recommend not doing it, because there's nothing worse than doing it but not posting regularly. It's just like a blog, right? A lot of times I'll go on to my clients' websites and do an audit of their website and find that the last time they wrote a blog post was 9 months ago. You do not want blogs on your website and not have written a post in 9 months. Social media is very much the same. You want to make sure that you have a regular cadence of promoting on social media. So the first thing you need to do is identify what is that strategy. So is my strategy, so if you're in the professional services industry, which a lot of you are, you might use social media to establish yourself as an expert, right? To establish credibility in your field. So if that's your strategy, then that you have to think about what kind of posts will do that and what different social media platforms will provide you that credibility. So the same basic rules of communication apply to social media, right? We want to be consistent. So a lot of times companies will assign some junior level person to be in charge of social media, and they have a complete different tone of voice and are communicating on social media completely different topics than what the company might be doing on their website or in their sales presentations. And so you want to make sure that whoever's doing your social media understands what those 3 key points are from your messaging triangle that you're now going to have, and that they understand what your voice is, right? Are you relaxed? Are you casual? Or is it professional? Are you trying to establish credibility, et cetera? So you want to make sure you're consistent across your platforms and that it fits within your communication strategy. As I said before, it's important to have regular cadence. We're going to talk about that a bit more in a minute. It needs to be customer centric. So I know I'm kind of repeating myself, but it's so important that when you're looking at your social media that you're being customer centric. What would someone want to read? What question are you answering for them? Is this interesting to my customer, or am I just bragging about myself? Or am I just posting because I know I have to? I don't really have anything interesting to say, right? There's a saying in my business that content is king, and it's very true. If you don't have interesting content, people are going to stop trusting you, and they're not going to want to follow you anyways. So you're basically going to be communicating to nobody. And then brevity. most social media platforms help you in the idea of being brief because they limit the number of characters. But again, you always want to think about that people have very short attention spans, especially on social media. Their attention spans are even shorter. So you want to have impactful images and impactful headlines and to keep it brief. Okay, so moving on to profiles. The profiles are basically landing pages for your business. I think a lot of businesses miss this opportunity. If someone looks you up on LinkedIn, they are basically like landing on a landing page for your business. And so you want to make sure that you're communicating who your brand is on that landing page. It is a great opportunity to further your brand story, both with images through your cover pictures and profile pictures, but also through the words. You want to make sure it's consistent across platforms. Regularly, when I research people's social media, I find that their profile information and the pictures are completely different on Twitter than what they have on LinkedIn. And then again, different than what they have on their website. So you want to make sure that it is consistent across platforms. I also really encourage you to regularly update it. They change the parameters of their about sections regularly. So in the last year, Facebook introduced the opportunity to include a little button up near your cover photo to link to your website or to book. They have like a couple different options. If you haven't been checking your profile a long time, you might have completely missed that they have that option now. Or on LinkedIn, in the last year, they added the ability to include a tagline. Again, if you haven't updated your profile a long time, you probably haven't noticed that you can add a tagline and you're missing an opportunity to communicate to your customers. Right size images. So all of them have different size requirements for both the profile picture and the cover picture. You really want to make sure that you are uploading images that are sized correctly. You do not want your images to be stretched. And you want to make sure that you're utilizing those images to give a message, right? So on the cover image, instead of just having, an image, overlay it with some information as well. And so it's really an opportunity for you to further your brand story. And then keywords, again, as I said before, these really are landing pages. So if keywords and search optimization are important to your business, I highly recommend that you include some of your keywords into the about page section as well, because when you do a search, a lot of times LinkedIn profiles will come up in Google searches as well. So it's an opportunity for you to further your search engine optimization. So this just is an example of Hootsuite, how they use consistent branding across all of their communications. And one thing I wanted to point out as well is that for the profile pictures, they're often really, really small. So let's say you're a law firm and your law firm logo has letters as well as the names of the partners below it. You might want to have your graphic designer simplify the logo to be just the letters for social media, because by the time it gets shrunk down so small, you may not be able to read the words. And so you really want to think about, is the image you're using readable and consistent across communications? So here's a couple other tips. You want to think about what platforms are best suited for your strategy. So as I mentioned before, if your strategy is to build credibility, you might want to use LinkedIn and Twitter, because those are both great platforms for building credibility. So, usually on LinkedIn, people are sharing company news, blog posts. It's very effective for B2B. They also have Facebook groups, groups on LinkedIn that can be a really great tool. Twitter also is a great platform for building credibility, sharing company news, sharing other news. People tend to use Twitter more as a news source. And so it is a great place. If you're a highly visual company, then you want to use Instagram, because Instagram's all about the visuals. Or if you hold a lot of events, you might want to think about having a Facebook page for your company, because they have a great event functionality built into their program. Cadence. Again, if anybody has questions, we're going to answer them at the end. You guys are all muted right now, so I just want to remind in case somebody's trying to interrupt me, but I'm going to have about half the time at the end for questions as well. Okay, so cadence. This is, I think, the biggest pain point for most companies and why they're afraid to jump into social media. As you know, social media is a feed. And so if you're not posting regularly, you're not going to show up in someone's feed. And so what I have here on the screen is what kind of the industry experts say is how often you should post on each of the different platforms. Now, that being said, do you need to post 3 times a day on Twitter? You don't. I mean, these are for companies that drive a lot of their business through social media. What I'm trying to drive home to you is that it's important to post regularly. If you don't post regularly, you're not going to show up on someone's feed. Again, might as well not do it at all. As I said at the beginning, if you're not going to do social media right, maybe consider not doing it at all, because I think not doing it right, it can be a waste of time and usually has 0 effect. I also get asked a lot of times, when is the best time to post? So again, you want to post when someone's looking at their feed, right? Looking at their phone. And so across the board, the best time to post is late lunchtime. Almost everybody looks at their phone at lunchtime. Depending on who your client is, there could be other good times to post. So if you're going after working moms, they say the good time to post is first thing in the morning or around 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. So there are some variances, but in general, the best time to post is late lunchtime. LinkedIn tends to get a lot of hits first thing in the morning and at the end of the day as well. So if you're very frequent on LinkedIn, then I would recommend maybe hitting some of those times as well. So you might ask, okay, well, I can't be sitting at my computer all day waiting to post on social media. Is there a tool out there that would help me schedule these posts so that I don't have to be, or the person in charge at my company doesn't have to be at the computer doing that? And the answer is yes. So Hootsuite, there's other systems out there. Hootsuite is just the one that I tend to use and recommend to my clients. But it is an awesome tool for social media. It allows you to schedule posts in advance and to post to more than one social media site at the same time. It also has different metrics where you can measure the effectiveness of your posts, so who saw them, etc. So give you an example, a lot of times with my clients, we'll come up with a campaign based around their 3 key messaging points, right? So if your messaging point was, let's say, personalization, then we would look at what are those proof points, right? And you can build a whole campaign around those proof points. And so if the proof points were that you do something different in your needs assessment, we could build a campaign talking about how you do your needs assessment, right? And maybe the different pieces of that, kind of a behind the scenes campaign. And so we would identify different types of posts that we want to do and then create those posts all at once. You could create them, say, at the beginning of the month, every month, and then schedule them on Hootsuite to go live at different times of day. So again, late lunch on Tuesdays and Thursdays, maybe you're going to post, and you would set the post up in advance, schedule it on Hootsuite, and then you don't have to do anything. And then what I usually tell my clients to do is then to pepper in timely, right? So these are kind of the evergreen posts that aren't going to change. And then you pepper in throughout the week posts that aren't as evergreen, that are more topical, right? Say something happens in the news and you want to share an article or share your thoughts on that, or maybe you have a product development that you want to share. You would pepper those more timely, less evergreen posts in throughout the week. But at least you know that you have a certain number of posts scheduled that are going to go out and hit the right time of day on the right days for your customers. Another tool that I like to tell people about is Canva. It's kind of putting people like me out of business. No, not really. But so if you don't want to hire a graphic designer, or you don't have someone on your team who can do basic graphic design, Canva is an awesome tool to use. It is a drag and drop graphic design tool. And they have templates built in there for social media. So they're already sized to the right size for Instagram, the right size for Facebook. Also, as I mentioned earlier, let's say you're going to do your new cover photos and update those to be something relevant to your company. They have the templates in there that are the right size. So Canva is a great tool. They also have a huge iStock inventory of stock photography that for a very nominal fee you can use into their templates. Okay, so this is just some pictures of, this is from Canva, of some of their templates, but you can customize their templates as well, but they give you a lot of basic ideas. It's actually a great place for idea generation as well. So if you don't want to use a graphic designer to create all your images, this is a great place to go to. Okay, so we are going to move on to SEO, search engine optimization. So basically, how search engine optimization is, how do you improve your website's ranking when someone Googles you, right? So how do we increase organic search? Organic search means search you did not pay for. So here's a couple tips on how you can do that. First one, obviously, is keywords and phrases. And when people say keywords, some people think of individual words, but what you really want to think about is phrases. How is someone searching for your website, right? What is the phrase they're going to use? So usually, especially if you're a location specific business, say you're a hair salon in Pasadena, someone might type in hair salon Pasadena or women's hairstylist Pasadena. And so you'd want to put that phrase together. It has to be those words together for the search engine optimization to pick it up, right? Another thing to keep in mind is voice search. I want to say this, they are saying like 25% of all searches are going to be voice searches by the end of this year. So this is something increasingly important. And people tend to have longer search terms in voice. It's more conversational and it's more how someone would talk. So when you're thinking of key phrases to put into your website for search engine optimization, to build them into your copy, think about how someone talks from a conversation standpoint. So once you've identified keywords and phrases, you want to build that into the copy on your website, as well as to the alt text, which we're going to talk about in a minute. The thing I like to just warn everybody is you don't want to write your copy for search engine optimization. You want to write your copy for your customers. So yes, keywords are important, but your copy can't be littered with 8 million keywords because it's not going to read well and it's not going to be a good representation of your brand. So you want to use keywords, but you want to make sure you're using them in a way that makes sense within the copy. Also, if you try to just pepper in 8 million keywords, Google is totally hip to that now, and they actually mark you down for that. They want to send customers to sites that have the best content. So they're looking for good content, not just the best use of keywords or the most use of keywords. And then another thing I think a lot of people don't understand is links. So yes, keywords help your rank in search engine optimization, but there are other requirements that Google uses in their algorithm to decide how high you should rank. And one of the key ones is links. So Google wants to make sure that not only the content is really valuable, but that you're an authority, right? That you have domain authority, which basically means that you're a trusted source. And so one way that Google knows you're a trusted source is to have other sites linking to you. So anytime you can get yourself in a directory or write an article for a reputable website, the more reputable that website is, if it links to you, then Google thinks, oh, these people know what they're talking about. They're reputable and they will rank you higher in the search engine optimization. So the more links you have in, the better, and the higher quality those links are, the better. So getting yourself listed in directories, even like the Chamber of Commerce, all of those types of links count. And so I highly recommend, if search engine is important to you, that you think about all the places that you could be linked. Okay, so I want to go over this pretty briefly, page titles and descriptions. So this is basically the first thing someone sees about you. And so on your content management system, which is what your website's built in, you can identify what you want the page title and description to be. So when someone searches your company, I use Mammoth as an example down below, this is what someone sees. If you do not fill in this information, Google will guess based on the content on your site. Better not to let Google guess. It's better to actually put out what you want. Again, you'd want this to tie into your key messaging and fit within your brand. If you are a location-specific company and location is important, you always want to put the location. So in this case, Mammoth put California's best skiing and snowboarding. So telling what they do and where they're at. And they limit the number of characters. So the title can only be 60 and description 160. So you have to really think about, again, being brief, what you want in there. Alt text is something that most people don't even know what that is. Basically, this is the tag that you put on images. So if your website has a lot of images, it's a lost opportunity if you don't put keywords, put alt text. So you want to tell Google what those are. Google cannot see the images. So without alt text, Google won't even know that image, what that is. They will just ignore it. So you want to say have a description of what that image is. And it's a great place to infuse keywords because the consumer is not seeing this, only the search engine. So if it's, let's say, a doggy daycare in Pasadena, you would have on the alt text, dog daycare Pasadena, dog daycare Monrovia, dog daycare Altadena, puppy daycare, puppy care. On the images, And that way you're not cluttering up your copy with too many keywords, but you can use the alt text as a place to infuse keywords. Also, if you have a lot of images on your site, 30%, a third of all searches on Google are done for images. And so if you have great images and you have great alt text, you're going to come up on those searches. So you're going to rank higher in search engine optimization just because you have those alt text filled in. Okay, so here's a couple tools. Google My Business. If you have not already signed up for Google My Business, I highly recommend you do. It helps you control how your presence is seen on search and also the maps on search. So it's free. Just go to Google My Business and it will walk you through the process. You basically just verify that that's your business, and then you get to control what the about language is, etc. Google Analytics is a tool that your web designer should be helping you access. It is a free tool as well that helps you identify where your users are coming from, what search terms they're using, if there's links, which links are actually driving people to your site, if you have landing pages, what landing pages are driving people to your site. So it's a great tool. Google Search Console is tied towards search traffic and performance. Will help you see exactly what search terms you're ranking high for and what traffic you're getting from those. So it's a great tool. And then if your business is really driven by search, you might want to invest in an additional tool. These are paid tools. So SEMrush and Moz, or Moz, I'm always not sure exactly how that's pronounced, is a great tool that will help you actually see how you rank next to your competitor. So you can put your URL in, your competitor's URL in. It will tell you what keywords they're ranking higher than you are. It will tell you how many links they have into their site. It gives you really awesome insight into how you measure up against your competitors and some insight into what you could be doing to improve your search engine optimization. You can also hire third-party companies. So if search engine optimization is really important, I do kind of what I just described here for my clients, but if search really drives your business or you're trying to look for lead generation through your website, you might consider hiring a third-party company. I've worked with a company called Search Optimizers in the past. They're based in Orange County, and they're very, very good. And they will come in and do a complete review and tell you exactly what you could be doing different. And then they actually help you make all the changes on your site to help you rank higher and then track it. So that is it for my presentation. I'm super excited to answer your questions. I'm gonna unmute everybody and open it up to questions. Does anybody have any questions?
As professionals, should we all be on LinkedIn?
Yes, I really highly recommend that everybody be on LinkedIn. And I also would recommend that companies create company pages, which is really simple on LinkedIn. You know, a lot of the Highrise members are professional services, so you're going to get a lot of your business from referrals. And most people like to connect through LinkedIn. So I highly recommend that you have a personal LinkedIn page. Any other questions?
You can write your question in the chat or you can speak up. All the mics are open. How often do you post on social media?
Well, you know, this is interesting. I actually do not post as often as I probably should on social media, mostly because most of my business is not driven through social media. So I think that it's important to look at your individual business and how often you're going to get referrals through that window. But I try to post on LinkedIn at least twice a week. But I do not use other forms of social media for my business because I don't think they're appropriate for my needs.
Fascinating.
I have a question, Cindy.
Yes.
This is Barbara McNamara, and I do family law. I'm a solo practitioner. What do you recommend in terms of social media marketing for a family law practitioner? Because I wouldn't, it's not appropriate to go reaching out, you know, solicitation and all that. So what would be your suggestion?
I think for you, I would look at building your credibility as an expert. And so maybe using LinkedIn and or Twitter, posting articles that maybe you don't, you know, one thing about social media is you don't have to write it all yourself. You can find things that you think would be interesting to your client base or relevant to your referral base, and include those. Also, as family law, I don't know if you do anything from a community standpoint. If you do a lot of giving back, I find that a lot of law firms do a lot of giving back to the community. So it's another thing we post about that would be really relevant to show that maybe you're involved with Elizabeth House or some other family-oriented organization. So posting about that really works as well.
Okay, great, thanks.
Anything else? That's not as many. I thought I'd have a million questions from you guys about branding and.
Is that they can contact you through your email if they have another question?
Yes, absolutely. Feel free to contact me. My email and my phone number are on there. I'm always happy to answer specific questions. I'm also always happy to take a quick look at your communications and give you, my initial thoughts as well.
Which is huge. Thank you so much, Cindy. We appreciate everyone joining us today, and we look forward to our next webinar. Thank you so much.